All right, guys, this week in Nurses Making the News on Thursday, I'm going to talk about one that hits really close to home, at least for me, a place that is roughly 30 minutes away from where I work. I have physically known nurses who work there. I knew maintenance crew that worked there. I have known plenty of people who worked at this facility. Pine Ridge in Thomasville, North Carolina, has done it. Something really bad, something that you normally only hear about in horror stories. 98 residents to 3 staff members. 1 being a nurse, 2 being CNAs. 2 residents ended up dying, and 2 other residents are in the hospital in critical care condition. All of this happened after a winter storm that we had here that honestly shut the roads down and everything. You know, I was there. I had to be at work that day myself, so I could see how the roads were pretty bad. However, that is just unacceptable. 3 staff members, 2 CNAs, and 1 nurse for 98 residents. That is appalling. That is a disastrous situation. One thing that no one has really mentioned or taken into consideration is how long the shift before had actually been on before the event happened, where EMS had said, the news said first responders ended up having to take care of the residents. First responders, I assume being police, EMS, and firefighters, had to help this 1 nurse and these 2 CNAs with care for the residents on this terrible, terrible day where 2 residents ended up dying and 2 ended up in critical care condition. This is appalling. One thing that really upsets me in this situation is this is all going to fall back on the nursing staff, and all of the upper level management and the people that sort of make the policies and procedures are just kind of wash it off and say, oh, well, they should have followed the policies and procedures, and they're pretty much going to get away with this with, nothing really happening to them. This is all going to fall back on these nurses, the staff that was either there or the staff that left just before it. It's all going to fall back on them, and these other people that really should be taking accountability for some of this are going to get away with it, and they're just going to sweep it up under the rug, this terrible, terrible disaster. That, of course, is my opinion. I don't know what the courts or really anybody's going to do about this. Haven't heard just yet. If you remember, several years ago down in Florida, there was a hurricane and the air condition went out, and something like 8 residents died due to heat, simply from the hurricane taking the power out and the air conditioning leaving. One thing that this nursing facility in Thomasville and the nursing facility in Florida had in common, they're both very close to hospitals. Not exactly sure why more calls to EMS weren't made earlier, or I don't really know who could have come out and helped, but more people should have been notified about this. I don't know the circumstances, so I'm not going to armchair quarterback this one and be too rough on people who didn't call, because those 3 staff members that were there were probably doing the absolute best that they could. The residents themselves began calling the police, wondering if there was even anyone in the building to help them. That is a terrible situation. Terrible, terrible situation. As I said, the higher ups, the people that do, the policymakers, the people that are in charge of these things, really should be keeping closer eyes on stuff. That's sort of their job. I don't understand why that was not done in the first place. Whew, terrible situation, and I honestly feel bad for the nursing staff in this situation, as a lot of this is going to fall, if not all of this, is going to fall back on them, and it's going to look pretty bad on the nursing staff. Not only that, it's going to look bad for the nurses who work in nursing homes, not even these nursing homes. Nurses who work in nursing homes, this is a terrible situation for them. As a nurse who has worked in a nursing home, we already know they're not the best circumstances at all times. They're just not. And this horror story, this one situation that is sort of a worst case scenario, sort of plays into our fears, at least a fear that I had while I was a nursing home nurse. This sort of plays into that fear of, what happens if I get left here alone? Unfortunately, that actually happened to this one nurse. Thankfully, this nurse has not been named. And I'm kind of glad about that, because, like I said, everything's going to fall on this nurse. It's going to happen. And I'm glad that no one has mentioned the name of this nurse at this moment in time. Sort of let this nurse sort of deal with everything that's going on, because I can imagine it's a mass amount of emotions. Terrible situation has, in my knowledge, happened twice now, as I've said before. The one in Florida at the Hollywood Hills Rehabilitation Center, and Pine Ridge, like I said, about 30 minutes from where I work in Thomasville, North Carolina. I hate it for these nurses. I hate this situation. I hate hearing about these situations. Nursing homes are where the residents live. It's not like a doctor's office. They can't just get up and leave. They live there. They have their stuff there. Their pictures are on the wall. So it's like no one's showing up to your house to help you. Terrible situation, and I hate to hear about it. And I hate it for the nursing staff. I just really do. I hate it for the nursing staff, because I imagine that this was not neglectful, or not meant to be neglectful on the nursing staff, and I hate it for them. Terrible situation. I'm going to end it there. If you like this video, check this one out over here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe over there. If you like Nurses Making the News on Thursday, there should be a playlist down below. Hopefully you get more joy out of the other ones, because this one was kind of a bummer. Yes, it was terrible. Hope it helps. Thank you much.